First of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having
for
me.
being here. When I messaged you, I had told you that so just for anybody listening, Veronica and I went to the same high school. We knew of each other, and obviously there were interactions between us because we would see each other, right? Like often. But we never got to really get to know each other like on a personal level. We never really did anything together or anything like that. But we have a lot of mutual friends on social media. So I see a lot. We ended up connecting over social media, and I see obviously like things that you post, things that you share. It's actually been a few years. This is so crazy. Like it's been a few years where I had kept it in the back of my head where I wanted to invite you to the podcast because we'll get into this later on in the conversation, but there's something that you're doing that would get my attention that's very community driven, and I thought that was really special, and I'd been meaning to reach out to you. And this happens so often, Veronica. Like I think of something and for some reason I don't connect with the person right away, or something comes up y sigue pasando el tiempo y pasa y pasa y pasa. But then I'm learning that everything happens when it's supposed to happen.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
And so now we're here.
Finally.
Finally.
Yes, ma'am.
Finally, we're here. Yeah, and even today it was kind of crazy because we had scheduled the call for way earlier.
Yes.
You had to go into work unexpectedly. And then we just kept pushing the time forward and forward and forward. But this is happening when it's meant to happen. And I'm open to it. So
thank you. Thank you for having me. And yes, I mean, it happens. Trust me, there's a couple of times that I do the same thing. And I'm like, I need to message, I need to call. But things do happen when they're supposed to. So here I am. And thank you. Thank you for reaching out. It's wonderful what you do. It's wonderful to see you here. So I'm all yours, girl.
And we're going to get into it. So first of all, like for anyone listening, and even for myself, because again, like I said, we know of each other, but we don't know much about each other intimately, right? Or about like our backgrounds, our families, or things of that. So maybe for anybody listening, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like where you grew up, a little bit of your family background, if you're okay with that, just so we get a sense of like who you are.
Yes, ma'am. So I grew up at Salazar Apartments. Everybody knows them or used to know them as El Sala. That's where I grew up. I went to Douglas. I went to Guillen. I went to Bowie High School. I am a single mom of 3 boys. Well, they're no longer boys. They're grown men. And I went to school, kind of did a little bit of college, dropped out, went to work, stayed at work for a couple of years, and then decided to leave work, go back to school and finish what I started. I have an associate's in business management, and I've been working, doing the same thing that I always do, business and in an office environment. And I have my own nonprofit that, we started way back in 2018. And that's my other second non-paid job, but that's what I do. But I did grow up at Salazar. That's, I have 3 sisters, so it's a family of 4 of us, my mom and my dad. Dad passed away, but yes, he did live with 5 women, so he had to deal with all ladies. But we do have a big family.
Obviously, we have so much of that in common because I grew up in the Segundo Barrio area, but we're talking about these are neighborhoods that are like very close together. And so we probably experienced a lot of the same things. Like I said, a lot of the same people, mutual friends, just the barrio life, right? Which is, I think a lot of people have such a negative thing to say about maybe the areas that we grew up in. And like not to say that there weren't some things that were a little bit crazy and sketchy that would happen sometimes. But I would not change it because I think that for me specifically, growing up in that environment kind of like shaped who I am today. And it kind of taught me a lot about humility and having like empathy and compassion for other people, and kind of like kept me grounded, which growing up, I wasn't thinking these things, right? Like when you're a kid and you're there, you're not thinking about any of this. But now looking back, I feel like a lot of the experiences there really kind of kept me grounded. And so I'm curious to know if maybe that's something that you feel the same about, you growing up in the area of Salazar.
Oh, yes, definitely. And it was different. It was different back then to now, Julie. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we experienced a lot more of that barrio life.
Right.
We did, but we
Yeah.
survived. A lot
We
of
sure
people,
did.
a lot of people tell me, "You were really from El Sala," and I'm like, "Yes, that's where I grew up." I lived there 18 plus years. I wouldn't change it for anything, girl. I really wouldn't. The most wonderful times of my life, because we were all united. We all, even though Segundo, and at that time you had the Wonders and PVL and so many other barrios, we still were friends. You made friends in every little barrio. And at the end of the day, I think we all kind of being united, even though we all lived in different barrios in different places. And it's weird because right across the street we had a different barrio, a different barrio where you cannot, be careful. You cannot go in there, or they cannot come here. But we were all united. We all had friends. We all knew each other, and we would take care of each other. So we grew up in a different era, girl. We grew up in I think we're lucky. I think we're blessed.
We definitely experienced something different. I go back now quite often to Segundo to show my kids, like this is where I grew up, and just kind of like reminisce of, things that happened during my childhood and stuff. And it's very different even walking through there now.
Yes, it is.
It's very peaceful. It's
We're like, where's everybody?
Yeah, it is, because sometimes it looks even almost like empty, right? Like
Yes.
like you don't really see a lot of activity, really. And back when we were growing up, there was always somebody out playing, people walking, señoras out like talking. It happened to have more activity, I feel.
Yes. And Salazar apartments, they're about to demolish all those apartments. We went a couple of years ago, my sisters and I, we were having a photo shoot with my mom. And we literally went, we're like, let's go in. And we took a picture right outside the apartment because, it molds you. It does create the person you are now, the experiences you went through, that even though you talk to your kids about them, they'll never know because they were in there.
Yeah.
And my boys sometimes tell me, there's no way you could have lived that. There's no way that happened. I'm like, yeah, it was so normal back then.
Yeah.
It was normal.
It really was.
Yes, it was normal.
Even though it was normal, there was also not, I don't know. And I don't know if it's because we were young and we didn't understand really a lot of things, but I never thought of the area that I grew up in as a dangerous place. Like I still was out playing. I'd go to the basketball courts and was there till dark, playing with friends. And I never ever, even though it was technically, an area where a lot of criminal activity happened and violence and things of that nature, I myself never felt unsafe in those areas. And so when I talk about or highlight a lot of the barrios here in El Paso, in the city, people that maybe had some type of experience here in El Paso many, many years ago have a really negative thing to say about them. Like, no, it was horrible. It was ugly, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I just never felt like unsafe.
I think a lot of that has to do with the respect that they used to have, or we used to have back then. We used to respect our elderlies. I mean, it was period, point blank. If it was just any elderly person telling you, don't jump, we wouldn't jump. We wouldn't, it was just that respect. I think we've lost a lot of that. And I think that's why I think we used to feel safe back then, because even though we would see activity, because we saw it everywhere, like you said, we would fight, we would hear gunshots, we would see all kinds of activity. Yeah. But like, if you were not part of it, they wouldn't mess with you. Like, they would respect kids, they would respect elders. And now it's different. I mean, unfortunately, it is different. Yeah. I mean, I saw I'm sure you did too. We saw a lot of things, all these fights. We saw all these things. We used to go to Juarez, girl, walk through Segundo, all the way to Salazar, because we never had that, oh, we're going in a carpool or Uber or taxi. We would walk it. So
we walked everywhere.
I went from Salazar to Guillen, all the way through the back street. And we never, I never felt like, oh my God, I'm in danger. But like I tell you, I also think that now that we're older, I think that we see that the respect back then was something totally different to what we see now. We have lost a lot of that.
Yeah. We really have. And there's always because I always feel really encouraged by the new generation in many ways. I always feel like there are a lot of positive things that are coming out from younger people. Like they're definitely learning to set boundaries better. They're definitely learning to speak up for themselves, which sometimes, for instance, like you and I, right, our generation, and just having the cultural background that we have, because we had such level of respect, sometimes you would also have a hard time speaking up for yourself, even when you had a right to do it, right? Like even when it was fair to do so, we wouldn't really speak up. So there are a lot of positive things that I see about the younger people coming up. But then there are other things too that I do struggle with, because I'm like, if I'm telling you something, I'm not trying to rule your life. I'm not trying to manipulate you or control you. Just listen to me. Please just listen to me. And they struggle a little bit more with that, I would say.
I agree with you. But like you said, now we have that advantage. Our kids have that advantage of speaking up. We're not maybe as close-minded as some of our parents were. There's a little bit more of communication. I can tell you there's a lot of things that I kept from my mom. Just, oh no, my God, I would never tell her that. And I know that my boys were a little bit more open with me in certain topics. And I think, like you said, that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing because they can talk, they can communicate, and we can find out, exactly what's wrong, what's bothering them. And that is something that, like you said, it's coming up. We're teaching them, and they're very good at it. Unfortunately, other things that we have lost, but that is very good because we were more into aguántate, cállate, no digas nada.
Yeah.
It's just the culture, it was just how we were raised. So now being able to speak up, and be able to say, no, it's wonderful.
And just speaking about I feel sad, I'm anxious, I don't feel good about this, because before, a lot of us didn't have the space to do that. You kind of really just had to suck it up.
Yep.
And and you had no choice, right? You kind of had to keep going and keep moving, and we learned to be on that survival state for so long. It was okay, well, you're sad and you're depressed. I don't even think that the word depressed was even really used. It was just I don't feel good, I'm sad, and oh well, I'm sad too, and I still have to go to work, kind of.
Yep. You're right.
So
certain things. Yes. Anxiety, depression, ADHD. Those things that while we were growing up, we would have never imagined. I'm like, okay, well, we were basically doing the same thing.
Yeah,
but
what
now,
is that? What
now it has a name, yes.
Yeah,
but it's different.
I know. So there are a lot of good things, right, about having more awareness to a lot of things and whatnot. But and some of those things I do feel I feel in some ways our lives would have been a little bit easier in terms of emotional intelligence, emotional health, and blah, blah, blah. If we had a name for some things, if we had more information about some stuff, dealing with our emotions, our state of mind. But we survived nonetheless. We're here.
We're here.
Okay, so I have a question that I honestly, I'm kind of almost embarrassed to say I didn't know, because even though we didn't really know each other really well, when we were younger, I still feel I should have known that. And I didn't find out until years later that you are actually half Puerto Rican.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So was it your on your mom's side or
My father.
your dad's side?
My dad.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And your dad was in the military too, correct?
Military, yes. Puerto Rican. Mom's Mexican. So my mom, my mom is a housewife, was a housewife. Nunca nos faltó nada. Hot meals, everything clean. The house was perfectly fine. She was a housewife all her life. And my father's Puerto Rican. He went to the service, military. He went to war. And then he became a chef. So he worked many years, 30 years for Denny's. And
Okay.
yes, ma'am. Actually, there was a Denny's by UTEP. I don't know if a lot of people don't know this, but there was a Denny's by UTEP. And my dad, even though he was older, a lot older, he used to walk from there to the house, to Salazar. UTEP to Salazar every day. But he was very healthy. He was very healthy. So
I was going to say, because walking is like the best form of exercise.
He'll be like, no, I'm going to walk. And I'm talking about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, because he was the chef, the main chef for the breakfast club, for the breakfast hours. So he would be there, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. A lot of people there at the barrio would be like, yo lo llevo. And he'll be like, no, yo voy a caminar. And he did for a lot of years.
So he just enjoyed walking.
Yeah, he would walk back and forth.
I wonder if that was like a time, I mean, like, I don't know if he ever shared this with you, but I wonder if that was just like a time for him to like reflect, especially because it was so early in the morning. And I was just having this conversation with, part of our conversation yesterday with friends. One of our friends, he worked in Las Cruces, and so he gets up really, really early, and he drives I think at 3 o'clock in the morning, he's already driving towards Las Cruces. And he was saying, oh, it's like so quiet at that time, no traffic, and he likes it because it's very settling, and he kind of gets to like think, or whatever it is that he does while he's driving all the way over there. So I wonder if that was maybe it for your dad as well. Like everything's calm, everybody's kind of tucked away, not ready to start the day, and he's walking freely, peacefully, and maybe that was his time to like just be by himself and not bothered.
And you know what? It might have been. But back, like we were talking, back then we wouldn't know those things. We wouldn't actually say, I need 5 minutes to be by myself. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Just to share a little bit of information. My dad made me when he was 50 years old. 50.
Oh, okay.
So me growing up, he was already an older man. There was a couple of times at school that it used to bother me a lot when I was in elementary, because a lot of people would tell me if he was my grandpa. And I'm like, no, he's my dad. Later in life, when I saw the birth certificate and it said, age of mom, age of dad, and my dad's age was 50, I was like, pues no wonder. Dad, what were you doing? Pero bueno.
I know.
He used to walk everywhere. He died of natural causes, even though he did have a little bit of heart problems, but I mean, he was 70, 80 years old, who didn't have, obviously. Pero overall, he was very, very, very healthy, strong. He could walk. He did everything on his own. We never had to take care of him for no reason. Pero he would walk for the longest time, I'm telling you. And a lot of people tell me, there was not a Denny's by UTEP. I'm like, yes, there was. My dad used to walk back and forth. Yes. And I think that's what kept him very healthy. And like you said, mentally, I think he would enjoy that walk.
Right.
Because, I mean, estaba callado. There was nobody out there.
Yeah. And I think that we all need more of that. Especially in today's world, it's very, very fast-paced.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're getting so much information all the time. Even when you are unglued from it all, like, social media or whatever, there's still so much, like, input of information coming through. And I just feel like we do need more of that.
Yes, ma'am. But a lot of people don't walk today, girl. A lot of people don't. I don't know if you ever remember seeing him. If you ever scroll through my Facebook and see a picture. A lot of people from we remember him because he was always I was part of the band, so he was always there at the band practices. He was always there at every single game, and a lot of people remember him. And then he was that kind of daddy that used to just pop up see if the daughters were in school. And he did that a lot.
So he was a very present dad.
He was, yes, he was. Yes.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Everybody at
That's
school
so
knew him.
wonderful.
The counselors, Miss Wu, Miss Scott, for those that went with me to Douglas, Miss Boyer. A lot of the, principals and the assistant principals and the office knew him because he was very involved. That's what I'm telling you. I guess I never saw him working out or doing any other kind of exercise other than walking. That was
No, yeah, and doctors will tell you, like, if you don't do anything other than walk, that's like probably one of the best forms of exercise to really keep your heart healthy more than anything.
Yes. And like you say, I think your mindset, we don't see it, but I think that's why he was always very, muy tranquilo, more stress-free than others, because I think that walk would and then imagine, 5 o'clock in the morning, you're just breathing all that fresh air.
Back then, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why he ended up here in El Paso? Because was he stationed here and he stopped his military service here in Fort Bliss?
Yes, ma'am. So he got, drafted to go into the war, and then he ended up here in El Paso. And I know he did some kind of work in Juarez, because at that time there were some soldiers in Juarez. I don't know exactly what they were doing. I don't know if they were just protecting, or I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly. But that's where he met my mom in Juarez. Mom ended up coming here because this is where that had to be. So this is where he ended his in Fort Bliss. Yes.
So did my husband. My husband started his military career here. Y yo siempre dije, porque yo decía, I do not, back when they would call them GIs, right? I do not understand why these girls go so crazy over GIs. I want nothing to do with them because they cannot be trusted. They're terrible. And I'm sorry for anybody listening, that's a former GI. But that was just like they had a bad rep, right? At least during like our time when, you and I were like in our late teens, early 20s. Y resulta que lo conocí aquí y me casé. And then this was his first base, like where he started. And then he just retired last year here as well in Fort Bliss. So it was like a full circle for us, like, and then home for me. So we just decided to stay here. But, hearing how he was like such a present dad and stuff, do you now, because maybe that was just normal for you growing up, like you had a present dad and you didn't think anything of it. That's just the life you led with him. But now as an adult woman, do you ever think of like how that shaped you, who you are today, having that, not just a present father, but obviously a closer bond, even though he was older and from another generation or whatever, because he was so present, you probably had a close bond with him, a tight bond with him. Do you ever think of that and if that influenced the person you are today?
Oh, yes, definitely, girl, definitely. Especially because my dad, even though he had his, he was close-minded in a lot of ways, because like I'm telling you, a lot older and coming from Puerto Rico, not the same as Mexico, even though a lot of people are like, they're the same. No, it's a lot different.
No, they're not. Yeah.
It's very different the way they think. But, he was always present. And I always tell my kids, I didn't do half of the things that I wanted to do, bad things, because I knew my dad would find out. Because he would always, like I'm telling you, he would just pop up. Like, let's see if they're in school. Let's see if they are where they were supposed to be. So as far as us lying to where we were going to be at, it didn't happen too much because, like I'm telling you, for some reason, I literally thought, they had extra pair of eyes behind their neck, because it's like, wow.
Las antenitas que
parecía que sabía, like, what? I wouldn't worry about Santa, girl. I was worried about my dad. And I'm going to tell you, very weird. One of my friends from Guillen, we decided to go to Juarez. So we jumped. Back then, ya tenían, you remember how they closed the gate and they wouldn't let us go out for lunch. Pues here we go. And we go to Juarez. apparently that day, my dad decided he needed to go to Guillen, and pues he caught me ditching. Forget it. I was like, that's it. Like, porque I tried
I'm
it that
dead.
one time, and I'm done. I was like,
La suerte que te tocó.
like, God, like, for real. Not only that, I'm the baby of four, so ya mi papá estaba, how we say, curtido,
Ya
ya. He
sabía.
knew. He knew,
Yeah.
so he kept me on my toes, that I will tell you. He kept me on my toes. There's a lot of things that I think that I wanted to do at that age that I just said, no, my dad's gonna find out.
It's
and then
not
he's
worth
gonna
it.
tell my mom and forget it, He was very present, very, very, always on top of things with us, with all four of us. Siempre dedicated to us. So that does have an impact. When people talk to me about, oh, pues I grew up without a father, I will tell you, Julie, I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you, I picture myself or what that feels. Porque gracias a Dios, mom and dad were always, very present. Mom was more, the house and maintaining the housewife and, talking to us about girl stuff. But my dad was out there, out there. So both of our parents were very present, were very there. And when somebody tells me, yeah, I grew up without a dad, I don't know what that means. And I raised three boys, like I was telling you, single. I was a single mom. And I think that's where it hurt the most, because I tried and I tried and I tried for many years to make it work because of that same thing.
You
I
wanted your boys
wanted,
to have
yes,
that.
I wanted that, I wanted them to have that, oh, my dad's coming to school, oh my God, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Or, even when we had performances and awards, I mean, having them there to share with you, all this progress and all these certificates and all these awards, it's also a good feeling. So I did go through some abuse, some physical abuse, because I wanted that. I wanted to, I wanted for them to have it. But unfortunately, it didn't work. So I try to do my best trying to do both jobs. There's times that I can tell you I failed. I think I failed. But there's other times that I look at them now and I'm like, nah, I did pretty good. I did pretty good.
Yeah,
but
I did pretty good.
When you live
Yeah.
it and you enjoy it and you feel that love, that's what you want your kids to have. But times change and you cannot make other people, be who, who raised you, or that image of what you have as a father. You cannot bestow that on everybody else. So it didn't work.
Right. Yeah, you
so
can't
ni
force
modo.
that other person to want it as well as you
Exactly.
did. And for me, it's kind of like the opposite, because I did grow up with both my parents, but my dad he still till this day struggles with substance abuse of alcohol. So not only was that a problem for everybody in the family unit, but then him and I had a very strained relationship. It wasn't a very good relationship. It was a pretty abusive relationship. And so for me, seeing, like, if we ever had sat down back then and you had shared things like that about your dad, I would have zero clue as to what that must have been like. I heard that from other people, both men and women, like friends, and I never felt envious, like, oh, I hate you that you have a good father, a good person father. No, but it was very curious. Like, I actually remember even asking my sister once, very casually, which I think also another thing about it, having grown up in such a weird, dynamic with a father like that, with my own dad, kind of gave me a very weird, almost like dark sense of humor about trauma. And I'm not, for anybody listening, I'm not saying that that's healthy, but that's just kind of how we coped with it. And so when I talk about things that I went through with my own dad, sometimes people don't know how to react to it, because obviously it was not normal situations. And people are like, wow, that's not okay. But I'm very oh, it's just what happened. And I'm like, I'm okay with it, right? So I remember once watching a TV show with one of my sisters, because it's also four women, but I'm the oldest.
Oh, wow.
And I remember asking her, I wonder what it feels like to have a dad, like a good dad. And she was just like, I know, right? And we had somebody else in the room. I think it was my husband. And he literally looked at us like, wow, that's so sad, right? And it is. It's very sad. But that was kind of like my experience. And then when I marry and I had my own children, our own children, my husband is the total opposite. So it was weird for me. It's almost like I was expecting for him to not be present and to not, and like I wanted him to be that, but really weirdly, I wasn't really expecting it, right? So it was really weird to be sitting there. And till this day, I see my children and I sometimes like look at them and kind of like them together. And I really feel like I don't know what that's like. Like I tell my oldest one, I don't know what you're experiencing with your father right now. I don't know what that's like, but I'm glad you're having it, right?
Exactly.
So it's funny how we're sitting here talking and like our experiences are like the flip side.
Yes. And you see that I think that's where now this is where the coping and learning, comes into play. So we don't know it. Like I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that tell me, well, I grew up without a father. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. We didn't learn to cook, I'll be honest with you, till later in life because mom did everything. So even though she was teaching us and even though she wanted us to learn, she used to do it for us. So there's things that, like you said, your husband's there, your husband's active, your husband is so present that sometimes we even see it weird, and we are like, should this be happening? No. But it's not, it's not bad. We all have different, we all have different experiences. This is okay. This is okay. Like I'm telling you, I went through some physical abuse because I wanted that, I wanted my kids to have the same father that I had, but it was impossible. It's two different human beings, two different times, I was like, okay, this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I told the father of my boys, I would have wanted, my boys to have what I had, because I can tell you what I had. And I mean, yes, even though my dad was strict and even though my dad was, a veces renegado because, he was older, but I wouldn't change it for the world, but my kids don't know what that is. And, sometimes I tell them, I'm sorry, babies, I tried. But like you said, it's just something where all of us have a different life, a different experience. And being there does create, that you start looking up and you start having an example. But sometimes we cannot have or we cannot offer the same life that we had, and it's okay. But nobody tells us it's okay, or at least back then, back then it was like, no, it's not, ahora, that's a good thing about this communication and different ways of us being able to express ourselves, because now we can say, it's okay.
Right. And it's also like, I think the importance, because like, by the way, I'm sorry that you even experienced any type of abuse in your relationship, but it's funny because if we had that opportunity to, talk about our feelings and say, I don't agree with this, how much easier it would have been to just say, you know what, I want this really bad, but it's not happening. And I refuse to put myself in this still. Right.
Exactly.
And instead, we put up with so much crap for so long because because we're in our head, we're like, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. Y nos aferramos, right? But thankfully, we move on, and hopefully a lot of us find grace and forgiveness for ourselves. And it's like, it is what it is, and we just did the best we could.
Exactly. Y como te digo, I mean, we all have a different experience, and we just need to learn and respect what, because some people won't know. Some people won't know why you do certain things, what makes you think or react. And we're so easy to judge. We're so easy to be like, But unfortunately, it is the truth. It is who we are. I mean, that's especially back then, como te digo, back then it was just, certain things were just not a topic. You would just not talk about certain things.
Yeah.
Now it's very different, which is a very good thing. I think that it's something that we have to just show that example, going to college, that's a big thing. It's not for everybody. And, sometimes as
Yes.
parents, we're like, no, you need to go to college because this is what's gonna, but we don't see, beyond. Some kids just cannot
It's
do
not for them.
college. Yeah, it's not for them. I can tell you from 3 of my boys, I mean, same mom, same father. My middle one, yeah, he'll be like, he always told me, Mom, I don't want to do college. I don't want to do college. And, he
Para
has a
que te
wonderful.
prepares.
Like I said, mijo, at this point, just bring me a high school diploma. At this point, other than that. Pero, he has a great job and he's doing wonderful and he's a great father himself. My oldest and my baby, they decided to go to college. They decided and they love it. But it's like I tell you, it's not for everybody, And sometimes like my middle one would be like, Mom, does everybody think like yo soy el tonto? And I'm like, no, mijo, it's not for you. You don't have to go to college. But I know that, some parents are like, no, it's a must. And it's okay if that's the way they think. I saw it, Julie. I said, no, But I'll be honest with you. If I didn't have to go to college, I wouldn't have. I mean,
no,
but
I totally agree with you. And I've said it so many times on here. I actually had a really hard time for a long time sort of coming to terms with that and saying it openly without fear of judgment, which is so crazy because sometimes we make up these narratives in our head and people don't give a crap. Like people already have their own freaking junk, right? They're like, okay, I don't care about your life. But, nosotros decimos, es que la gente me va a juzgar. But, yeah, la gente, porque somos el centro del universo in our own little head, right? But my mom mi mom estudió medicina in Juárez, right? So she was a physician. Tuvo que dejar. This is something she loved. She said, when I was 6 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. Like this, she just had it defined for herself, which I'm like, wow, that's great. Because I don't think any of us really, the majority of us know what the heck to do with our lives, right? I still don't know. I want to do so many more things. But so she knew, went and pursued it, loved every aspect of it, like fue su pasión, right?
Yeah.
Had to leave it because she migrated to the United States and obviously pues, the language barrier and whatnot. She ended up not being able to practice again. But her whole life, my mom's been in love with learning in a school/college setting. Exactly. It's where she loves it. She thrives. Even being here, she attended UTEP multiple times for different courses because she just loves that environment, right? Of learning like that way. Because I think we all learn, we just learn differently. But she loved learning in a classroom setting. And so for a long time, her biggest dream was for us, all of us, to go to college. And then she was thinking the cherry on top would be if any of you pursued something in the medical career, right? And so for a long time, which you probably can relate to this, because of our cultural background, because of how we grew up, our traditions, the way our parents believed, so many of our abuelitos and stuff believed, you just want to please your parents, right? You feel like they sacrifice so much. I should be able to do this for them.
Yes.
¿Qué me cuesta darles esto, right? Especially being first gen, and not necessarily first gen because I wasn't even born here. I was born in Juárez y vine when I was 10. So, but still having migrated and seeing all that my mom went through for us to gain pathway to citizenship and have these opportunities, I felt like I should do something with this, right?
Yes.
And I love learning, but I didn't know I ever had the choice to not learn in other ways, right? And so I kind of forced myself to go to college because I wanted to please her and I wanted to feel good and blah, 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 blah. But then this just happened a few years back when I was like, you know what? Everybody's path is different. Everybody has different ways of learning. everybody's not built for college. And then especially in today's world where college is really expensive. It's not, it's a whole other game ball now for a lot of young people. So I was like, if my kids don't want to go to college, I don't care. I really don't care. I just want them to pursue something that makes them happy. Right. Yes. And when you're happy, you're going to be okay with your life. That's what we want for our kids. We want them to be happy. So why am I going to force them? Right. And my oldest one, she's so bright, but she immediately said, I want you to know that I don't want to go to college. And I was like, okay, don't go to college.
And you know what, Julie, maybe I shouldn't even say it, but maybe the school system that we have drains them so much. I know we used to have homework. I know we used to go home, do homework, and then go out and play. But now it's bad. Like, oh, you have to pass this and you have to pass this other test. And if you don't pass this test, we only had the task to worry about. 3 tests. That's all we had to do. And then obviously we had the SAT and we had whatever for the college placements. But that was it. And now I think now that, our school system demands so much from them that I think
they're burnt out.
By that time, exactly. I think that by that time, it's like, forget it. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not for everybody. Some people learn online. Others have to be present. And it's not for everybody. My youngest is 24 years old. And I can tell you, he's part of the Air Force. And I was so in shock when he told me, Mom, I'm actually joining the military. I was like, how?
What?
Because I know he's so smart. I'm like, you could have gotten all these scholarships. You could have gone to any college you want. And you go to the service. And he's like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm not going to lie to you, Julie. For a couple of months, I was so mad. I was like, no.
Devastated.
Yes, because my dad was a veteran. I have nephews that also served, friends, from school. I was like, no, que me los quite Diosito, pero que no me los quite el gobierno. I'm going to be honest with you. That was my thought. Sí. And I was like, how is it that he's going to go to the air? Like, how? And then my oldest was like,
what did I do to you?
He's like, Mom, he's going to the Air Force. He's going to be fine. And I'm like, no, like... So, I was grouchy. I was not happy. I was like, oh my God, he had the world in his hands. Like, why is he doing this? But then
why is he signing it over to the government?
Exactly. And then after, como te digo, like you say, you want them happy. Success is different for everybody. I see him happy. He became a whole different person, whole different man. Now I say, okay, I guess it wasn't that bad. But I'm going to tell you, the feeling of, if you ever go to one of those graduations, they literally tell you in the ceremony, and maybe your husband can tell you, yeah, she's right. But they literally tell you, like, oh, hey, Mom, your kid is no longer yours. Your kid belongs to us. And you're like, hello, excuse me? I don't think so. So, beautiful ceremony, but you're like, excuse me? Traigo toda la clica conmigo.
Ándale. ¿Cómo que no es mío, señor?
So it's like, wow. I'm like, I literally gave you, I gave life to you 18 years and you're just here giving it away, just to like, whatever. Yeah. Pero bueno, he's doing wonderful. Pero like you said, we want different things, When I knew, what he was capable, exactly like my other 2 boys, but I was like, really? The military? Pero he's happy. He's...
Which is what matters,
exactly.
Right? And that's probably one of the hardest things because let me tell you, my oldest she just turned 19. I still have all minors. I started later in life. I started way later in life. But it's so weird because every stage is hard, right? Mm-hmm. Like, seeing them grow up and like slowly they don't really need you so much. And you're just like, but you're my baby, right? So every stage is fine, but you seem to sort of navigate it like, well, it is what it is. They grow up. But then it's so hard to see that transition of like, I now want to do the things for me and I'm making these choices for me,
Yep.
that's really, it like tugs at your heartstrings like in a very, very different way. So even though obviously La Mia, she would never join the military. Let me tell you right now, she would never. She would, if she wanted to give me a heart attack, she would tell me just to scare me and piss me off. But because my husband served and it's so funny because my husband served for 23 years and my husband tells them, I would not want you guys to serve. I'm going to be honest with you, right? But if you absolutely wanted to, I guess go for it, right? So I don't know what it's like to have her want to take off like that, like so extreme. But I can imagine. Just with the little bit she's giving me so far, I'm like, ugh, I have to stay quiet and be like,
Yes.
respect her autonomy, respect her autonomy.
It's her life.
It's her life. It's her life.
Yes.
She's not going to please you. It's hard.
Yeah, and especially because we're very different, like you said earlier. We were more into, my mom wants me to be a doctor. My mom wants me to be, and we used to, and we lived a life, but we were like, okay, no, I'm never going to do this because my mom wants me to do that. And it was so natural. It was so normal for all of us to do that, Oh, what are you going to college for? Well, I want to do this. But, my mom says that, if I become an attorney, I'm going to make much more money or whatever. And we were fine with it. Now our kids have a different mentality. They're like, no, this is my life. And you know what? It is.
It's my life.
It is their life,
Yeah.
After the age of 18, there's so much less that we can do. We're like, pues no, I mean.
It's out of your hands. You can tell them all you want, but they know legally you can't make it.
And they know it's their life and they're going to end up doing whatever. And yes, more than likely I would have wanted an engineer, a doctor, and whatever you want. But, as long as you see them happy, as long as they're safe, they're happy, they're healthy, you're gonna see that you're gonna be okay with it. It's a change, that you start seeing them like, ay, ya no me necesita, and like, that's it. They're driving and they're doing this by themselves. Imagine I had my three boys. All three boys were mama's boys, for the longest time. And then all of a sudden they start like, boom, 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 like, and that's it.
Pasó?
I'm like, where did time go? But it's different because the kids now know, it's their life. I'm going to do, where I'm happy. And that's good because, we lived our life. Whether we lived it, if we wanted to do it different or if now we say, oh my God, I should have. Now, they have to live their life. Y así van a aprender ellos and they, you give them the tools to vámonos and hope and pray for the best and that they're happy.
Yeah.
College or no college, education or education, whatever it works best for them. It's different for us to see that because we were raised totally different. But, I mean, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. That's like the beauty of human nature, right? Like for the majority of us, you can sort of roll with the punches, for lack of a better term. You roll with the punches, you figure it out, and you rise above no matter what, right? And that's part of being human, But I do want to get into the reason why I was so drawn to really give you a space and for me to find out more about it as well, because you are extremely invested in community.
Yes.
And like you said earlier in the beginning, you have an organization that we're about to find out in a little bit, like what it's about, what is it that you do, the resources that you offer, what it is that you offer the community. But I'm kind of interested of like, how did you land here? What happened in your life, or what was the decision? What was happening that you said, I think I want to do this?
So coming from a family that, my mom's house was the place to be. My mom would always cook for everybody. Somehow my mom was tia of everybody. My family, my mom and my dad both were very giving. They would always be trying to, do a little bit more than they could Christmas was always making tamales for the whole entire neighborhood. It didn't matter. And I guess that's an example that we kind of noticed. They were not as, I guess, as blessed or as lucky to give more than what thankfully my sisters and I do. So I don't know what they would have done if they would have had the possibilities to do it. I don't know if you remember when the Cubans came into El Paso as the refugee program. It was almost 4,000 Cubans coming in, 100 Cubans a day. I was assigned, I was thrown into it. Oh, we're gonna give you the space, and the city's gonna give you all this help, and you're not gonna need anything. Can you handle all these Cuban refugees coming in?
But how did that happen, though? Like, what were you doing at that time that you happened to be at the right time with obviously the right type of maybe connection who said, oh, I know somebody that could do this?
So back in I don't know if you remember, back in 2015, there was the news came up and Haitian Community Center was going to close in 2015. Haitian Community Center was already in negatives, was already in reds. Nobody wanted to take over the job. Nobody wanted to do anything because lack of money.
Right. And just to quickly tell our listeners, in case you don't remember or you don't know, Haitian Community is like a community rec center in Segundo Barrio.
Segundo Barrio, yes, ma'am. Full of history, full of tradition. To make you a long story shorter, the president at that time, or the director at that time, in 2015 had told me, hey, Veronica, do you think that, you want to take over the job? It would be wonderful for it. And I'm like, lady, I'm making, over there where I'm working, I'm making $17.50 an hour. That was in 2015. I was like, girl, no. Obviously, no. Monday through Friday.
No thanks.
No. But nobody wanted that position. I don't have an answer for you, Julie, as far as why. That was early 2015. December of 2015 comes around and I get another call. Hey, Veronica, the center's going to close. Nobody wants to direct. I'm leaving. And at that moment, I'm like, you know what, Kathy? I'll do it.
Sure.
And she's like,
I'm up for the
challenge. Are you sure? I was like, sí, acá voy, like one of those things. I'll do it. I give my 2 weeks notice over there. I come over here and I start 2016 as the director of Haitian Community Center.
So you went from like, no, I'm not interested because I'm in a good place, to now it's like, oh, it's closing. And then you decide, of course I'm going to try this. Let me just quit my job.
Now, why? I don't know. I keep on asking myself sometimes. Like, why?
Was I on something that day?
What was I smoking? But it happened. So I start 2016. I received the year as the director. 3 months with no pay. My pay was a 2001 Dodge Ram. That was my pay.
And your boys are still young at this point.
Yes, and my boys are still young. I don't know why or how I got myself into it, but God will provide. God will provide. And he did, somehow. So we started getting up those numbers. We started doing all this community work. The center started, coming up to, to what it was once. Because when you were growing up, that center was, oof. I don't remember it because, like I'm telling you, I'm not from Segundo. So I had our own little stuff over here. I really don't know. But I remember it being at full blast.
Yeah, it was known. It was packed. There was always so many activities, a lot happening there all the time. It was definitely a safe space for kids in the neighborhood to just go. Anybody, really.
So I start with it. We were doing great. Then the news came up, all these Cuban refugees are coming in, they use the wet foot, dry foot to come into the United States. If they made it anywhere within a border city, the United States gives them a year of, their permit to work. So they started coming in. The president the board president tells me at that time, hey, Veronica, they're going to be coming in. You think you can handle it? The only place where we can have all these refugees is Haitian. Pues bring them on. I was already there.
I'm already here.
It was a world full of promises that, never came through. But that changed my life. Not only my life, but the people that were with me. We were receiving Cubans, Julie, 24 hours a day. We would get notification of, okay, a plane landed, it comes with 100 refugees. That's where they would stay, at Haitian Community Center. We had no idea what they eat, don't eat. So we served them burritos. At that time, we had I don't know if you ever heard of it, but we had the kitchen that was a community kitchen. So if you didn't have money, if you didn't have a way to go buy, a plate, all you had to do was show up and say, you know what, I'm hungry, I don't have any money to pay, and we would give you something to eat. And those that could afford it, those that could pay for a plate, they would pay. And from there, we would pay for the other plate.
Keep restocking.
Yeah, over and over. Mm-hmm. So we had the community kitchen. And I told the lady there, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to give them. So we give them these burritos de chile verde, chile colorado, picadillo. They don't need any of that. They don't need no spices. I didn't know that. Things had to change right away. 100 people. We had the fire department take, all these cots to the gym. It was crazy. It went from, this is where I can tell you that El Paso community is the best community anywhere in the United States. Once they started hearing that we had no way to support, to give them, the community started taking clothes, shampoo, conditioner, you name it, anything and everything. We ended up letting the Cubans cook. We're like, okay, you guys, there's the kitchen. You guys can cook for yourselves. It went wonderful. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was the beginning of May. We didn't know what we were doing. It was nothing but volunteers. Nobody was getting paid. We did 24-hour shifts. I didn't went to my house to go sleep with my boys that entire month of May. We spent Mother's Day there, a couple of birthdays there, because we were so busy. We were just so busy.
That was going to be my next question. Like, I'm assuming that as your first, because you had never dealt with something like this, the influx of people coming in, you kind of just knew on the job altogether. You probably had to be there all the time.
Yeah. And I had wonderful volunteers. I had wonderful people that were with me. I cannot tell you how grateful, because they were always there with me. These people had a regular job and they would get out at 5:30. Vero, what do you need? Whataburger was wonderful to us. They were wonderful Whataburger by Bowie. A lot of people, donating stuff. Prices donated gallons and gallons and gallons of milk. You know that them over there in Cuba, when they saw the milk, they were like, wow. I told them, the milk is there. Feel free to get some. And they couldn't believe it. They said, only the rich people in Cuba can drink milk. And I was like, what?
No way.
They're like, yeah, we don't touch milk in Cuba. Prices took a big refrigerator, girl, like those, like the ones you see at,
like industrial type.
Yeah, the ones you see at the store.
Uh-huh.
They're like, we're bringing a refrigerator full of milk. So these Cubans were like, what? It's for free. They couldn't believe it. So a lot of the things that we take for granted here, it was just wonderful for them. They were literally living, if they were wealthy,
the American dream.
The American dream. The internet, they were like, what do you mean I have unlimited internet? Yeah, the internet's up, don't worry. I never had any problems with them, even though a lot of people were like, the Cubans have a very bad attitude, blah, blah. To be honest with you, we never experienced anything bad. We had to, they had to come here and adjust. So we were kind of...
Right.
We would empathize with them. They're coming in from a total different, country. They're coming into a total different language. And a lot of people lost a lot of people on their way over here. They would tell us all these stories. Women were raped. Men were raped, because they came through so many different places that unfortunately they went through
that are very dangerous.
Yes. We did that for a whole entire month. Obviously, because we had so many Cubans in the center had to stop all other activities. So the center stopped doing, the regular normal things that we would do for the community. I don't think the community or Segundo Barrio had a problem with it because they knew what was going on. But it did get up to the higher people. After that, we started trying to get back on track, right? Doing everything that we had to do. By November, when we do the Thanksgiving dinner, we ended up feeding 600 people at that Thanksgiving dinner. It was open for everybody, homeless, anybody there. They had a Thanksgiving dinner. 600. I had a lot of help from UTEP students. I had a lot of help from the LGBTQ community. I had a lot of help. There was a lady that actually made from scratch cornbread, the most delicious cornbread I've ever had. She made it, and she's
For
like,
everyone.
"You're not gonna give him dinner rolls?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Let me see the kitchen, and I'll do cornbread for everybody." She did it for everybody. So we served 600 plates that day. The
Wow.
next day, everybody goes home, and I tell everybody, "Don't worry about it. The basketball team from UTEP is gonna come and help us clean. Clean the dishes." So they needed to do their community, their community hours. So that's what they were gonna do. I got another visit that day, which was from the head honchos. The land where the center sits on is owned by the Methodist Church in New York. The building is El Paso's building, but the land, it doesn't belong to the city of El Paso. So the owners of the land are the ones that dictate what's going to happen in that center.
What you can and can't do.
Things, November when my kids from UTEP were supposed to go and help, I also get another visit where they tell us, that's it, we're closing, we're shutting it down. And the only reason that they gave me was basically you're not doing what you're supposed to do for the community, which I never understood how or why.
Because if you think about it, and like the essence of what that center was, to lend a hand, and if that's something that's happening within the community, then it was most definitely doing its job.
That's what I had said. When I turned in the keys, I did my own debate. I drove to Albuquerque, go talk to the man that was, in charge of this section. And I explained to him, we are doing work for the community. We've been doing
And
this,
the
we've been
community's
doing
helping,
that,
and they don't care.
And they don't care. But apparently we were not following what they wanted. So they decided that, more than a help, Haitian Community Center was more of a burden because it was not generating income. Okay. Now I know where this was coming from.
Now I know. So
I
it's
said,
not
okay.
really what I thought it was.
Exactly. I was like, okay, fine. They decided to close. They decided to shut down Haitian Community Center. And when I turned in my keys, the lady told me, "Oh, you're gonna do wonderful things, Veronica. You're wonderful. This is just not the place for you to do it." And she tells me this, that I always remember this, and I tell myself, wow. Because she tells me, this center was supposed to serve God, and you broke that. You didn't satisfy that. You are the reason why we're closing the center, because
Which is insane to me. Because isn't that the whole point of, anybody who is a follower of Christ, regardless of denomination, right? Which is you help the needy, you help the widow, you help the orphans, you help the immigrant. Like, how crazy is that?
And even after the Cubans, Julie, we would literally, the border patrol, the immigration at Puente Libre and Puente Juarez, both had my cell phone, my sister's cell phone, had a couple of the cell phones from us there, and they would call us every once in a while. Vero, I have a lady here that is coming in from Panama. She's pregnant. She needs a place to stay. Can you help? So I would bring her in.
You're doing God's work.
I would bring her in. I would put her in a room in Haitian. And the next day, she would take a shower. We would give her brand new stuff. We would talk to her a little bit of what was going on, what happened, because we needed to know all this. We just never kind of documented exactly, names and other information they wanted.
Yeah.
But, we would, okay, so tomorrow, this is what's going to happen. We're going to send you to this place because they can help you. We cannot help you. This is a community center, not a shelter, or little things like that, And we helped a lot of people. I cannot give you a number of the amount of people that we truly helped, but apparently we were not serving God. Those were my last words to her. I said, you know what? Yes, you're right. I will do wonderful things. I don't know what God you're serving, but mine, Mine.
Mine's okay with it.
I know mine's okay. I said, mine
Yeah.
has given me the blessing. I said, so let me continue serving God my way. I'll figure it out. And I turned in my keys, and that was the last I've heard, from the place, from them. That was 2016, 2017, kind of like we were kind of, seeing what we were going to do. And 2018, this is where Corazones Unidos is born. This is where we start. Because
Your
we
organization?
We missed doing things for the, for the community. We missed helping the homeless. We missed doing all this. So we were like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do it on our own. And this is what we did. This is where Corazones Unidos starts, with the same people that were with me helping with the Cubans and the same people that were with me at Haitian Community Center. This is where we start. From there, we just kept on doing it. We feed the homeless when we can, which is something we started. COVID kind of interrupted all that. Mm-hmm. And now we're back at it. Now we're back at, feeding the homeless. We do a lot of work with kids with special abilities. We have been working with them for a couple of years now. Actually, this is like our 5th year. And we do a fall festival for them where, I don't know if you remember, but when we were in elementary or middle school, we used to have these fall festivals, and we used to go play at school, and we had all these games, and it's basically the same thing. We have games for them to play. We have a DJ. They dance all night. They take a big candy bag full of candies and goodies and stuff that they can use at home. We do a costume contest. Everybody takes something. We do a big cake walk. So everybody takes either cake, cupcakes, cookies, some kind of sweets. And we do the same thing for them for Christmas. We do a posada. And Santa shows up and gives them a gift. And we dance and we play and we eat. And it's wonderful. That's what we have been doing. We do soccer with them. We are able to help them go to the Special Olympics in San Antonio. And we do fundraisers so that those kids
because I've seen you post about enchilada plates, right? Enchilada plates.
So there's kids that don't have, the way or the means to get there. And once they're there, there's so many attractions for kids. They want to do SeaWorld. This year, we were able to take them to SeaWorld. So the kids went to SeaWorld. They enjoyed it. A couple of years ago, we took them to Mr. Gaddy's. And they ate unlimited pizza. They played games. So this is where we come in, those other little extra stuff that, the city or grants or whatever won't pay. This coming year, Julie, in 2025, Corazones Unidos will be the ones to actually do everything from scratch to take them to San Antonio for the Special Olympics. So
and just cover all the expenses.
Yes. So we're hotel, stay, food, some entertainment for them. And it's going to be 2025 is going to be Corazones Unidos taking them completely. Because we've been doing it for so many years. We think now we can do it on our own. And we have so much help. I'm so blessed because we have a couple of people that started with us that are our sponsors. When we need money, they're like, here you go. And we do all this fundraising for them. Like I'm telling you, we do the fall festival, we do the posada. They have soccer practice. They have it twice a week. Mundo Rodriguez is their coach. And, he practices with them. And we take him for that to the Olympics. We have worked with a Consulado Mexicano where they bring all these other kids with special needs from Mexico and they play with us. So we were able to take him to go see Santos.
So it's like international now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we're just growing. We're growing. Now we started back with the homeless, feeding the homeless. We did that last 2 weeks ago. The plates were spaghetti with salad, a dinner roll, and something to drink. We did 50 plates and we gave them all away. And like I'm telling you, I have the best group that I can ask for, the best volunteers. We are doing something with the abuelitas because this is something that we had already been thinking about. We see all these older people, all the elderly, that they are perfectly healthy, Julie, but they're so depressed because nobody talks to them. People forget about them. they're left in shelters, they're left in home, in all these home shelters. They're just left there. Nobody visits them, nobody talks to them. We've seen that a lot. So now we're going to start with what we're calling Café con Abuelita, which basically we're just going to show up with sweet bread.
Pero you're going to make me cry.
So forget it. I think I'm going to be crying when we go see all these abuelitas because, some of them have some stories. We're going to do a little bit of art. We have Marcos Rey, that he's a great artist here locally in El Paso. And he's going to do some painting, some things so that the abuelitas can draw, paint. But we're going to be doing different things, Some are going to be doing crochet. Sometimes we're going to be doing this. We're just going to be going, as we go, see what is needed. Kind of, let them exercise their brain by doing different things. And giving them love, attention. 5 minutes of fame for them is what they need sometimes. And that's where we come in. If we have to tirar chisme, pues vamos a tirar chisme con las abuelitas.
Porque obvio que queremos
vamos a tirar chisme.
A mí nadie me va a forzar.
So, hey, y si quieren tirar chisme, vamos a tirar chisme. But that's the whole, giving them a little bit of time, just for them to know that that's what we're here for. And sometimes we cannot do a lot of monetary help, but being present makes a lot of a difference. Letting people know that you care. Letting people know, hey, we're here. Some people ask me, Julie, and I can show you text messages when they tell me, Vero, why are you feeding the homeless? You know that those people are there because they want to? You know that those people are addicts? I'm like, we're just taking food. That's it. We have a little bit extra. We're feeding them. Some of them come to us, and they give us their blessing. Some of them are so happy. The moment we give them a plate, they start eating. They don't even wait for us to give them, the water or give them, the fork. They just start eating because they're so hungry. We're not there to see if they're addicts or you're here because you want to.
Or like you deserve this because you're this type of person, or you don't deserve this. Yeah. I'm going to tell you this. Aparte de que I was very intrigued and curious about what you were doing, because I knew it was community driven. I knew it was to support the community, but I wasn't sure exactly what was happening and what was like your whole mission and your idea moving forward. But another reason why I was like, I have to talk with her about this is because there are a lot of wonderful people within our community that do their own work that brings attention and awareness to a lot of need in different areas.
Yes.
And they do a lot of work to provide and help, and whether monetary or meeting a need of some sort. I feel, and this is a very personal opinion, that sometimes the attention to these type of programs, organizations, or just people that are like que se están moviendo within the community, the attention is not distributed equally. And I understand that obviously you can't keep up with everything that's happening, and you can't keep up with, who's doing what. And now we have to give this person like a space, and we have to talk about. I understand that. But, and I include myself in this, right? I don't think that a lot of people realize everything you've just told me has been happening. And yet there are so many other people who are kind of just getting into the groove of this that are receiving much more attention. And I'm not trying to say that they don't deserve it, because again, if it uplifts the community, if it helps,
yes,
I'm all for it, and I can support in whichever way I can. But it kind of bothers me, and again, me incluyo yo, that we are not as invested in people who are under the radar in a way. And I know that you're not doing this because you're seeking attention, or no, like obviously because you've been so persistent and consistent in doing this, is because you enjoy it and you like what you're doing, and you do it in spite of whether, like, you know what I mean? Like whatever happens. But it does bother me that we don't treat it equally.
Sometimes we focus in all this other bad and negativity and other stuff, and we don't see beyond I mean, I've have come across, Julie, people that do wonderful things that I'm like, oh wow, like, and a lot of people tell me, Vero, why are you not out there? And I'm like, I really don't want to. Like, I really don't want
but
to.
I am though. But you're out there in a way that serves your purpose and your mission.
So a lot of people tell me, hey, Vero, you need more attention. You need this. And I'm going to tell you, I don't have a webpage because I had tried to remain so much like, no, we're just going to do this. Y gracias a Dios, Julie. I mean, I don't do any grant writing. I don't, I really don't ask for a lot of donations because, like I tell you, we have this couple of people that, have a little bit more than we do, and they keep on giving this organization. Anytime we need something, we call and we say, hey, we need $1,000. And they're like, okay, without a question, because they've seen what we do. I'm so blessed that we have them. I am so blessed. So I haven't really needed, a webpage, this and that. Now I just got convinced there's somebody that wants to do, our webpage. He wants to do it for free. He wants to work with us. So we are working on that. So there should be a webpage pretty soon. Other than Facebook and Instagram, that's basically all we use as far as social media. Mm-hmm. We do have a silent auction that is, believe it or not, this is the 3rd year that we do it. But it's just becoming so big, Julie, so big that I think that I need to give that to my artists. They need to have that platform. They need to have, that webpage so that they can see, Paso's full of talent. Everywhere you look, we are full of talent. All these artists do wonderful work. They donate all these pieces to me, to us. And then we have this silent auction where the community goes and they, they pick whatever they like and we auction it. That is one of my biggest fundraisers. That is my biggest fundraiser. And that is what makes the Fall Festival and the Posada actually, that makes it happen. It happened because it's so many kids and we're growing and we're growing and we're growing. This year, we have been doing the Posada and the Fall Festival in the same hall. And I think this year we're going to have to change it up because gracias a Dios, we're getting to more people out there. So obviously, my artists that do all this help for us, they deserve this platform. They deserve this webpage. They deserve for other people to see their work. And this is where I said, you know what? No, they deserve it. All these other people deserve what everybody calls their 5 minutes of fame. Because I work with volunteers, nothing but volunteers, Julie. We meet once a month. There's times that we're texting during the days because, something came up, because a family needs something, because somebody needs a food pantry, because somebody needs this. And, this is where we all come into effect. I am blessed. And that is why the name is called Corazones Unidos, because the only way you can do this is porque tienes el corazón. I don't have wealthy people sitting in my board. I don't have millionaires, sitting in my board giving me tons and tons of money. We do this, on our free time. We do this. We meet once a month. We decide what we're going to do and we move forward. Like I'm telling you, it's volunteers. It's nothing but volunteers. We do this from the kindness of our hearts. But yes, we do need to get out there a little bit more. And even though, like I'm telling you, even though I was so against it for a little bit, especially me and the president of the board, we were like, because we're not used to it. It's like my dad used to say, que tu mano izquierda no sepa lo que hizo la derecha, So in order for us to be able to help more people, we need to, be known. But we do a little bit of everything. Julie. We're trying to do basketball now for the kids, not only soccer, which is something that hopefully we will start soon. Como te digo, Café con Abuelita, which is, targeting the elderly. And we do have something in mind that we're trying to work with the single fathers. And I'm going to tell you why the single fathers. Because the single mamas, we can get all the help we want. There's a lot of help for us. As a single mother, I can tell you, there's a lot of help. Counseling help, daycare, because we're a single mom. Resources that we have all this help that Obviously, some get it more than others, or depending on whatever, we have to follow rules and regulations. But there's help for us. But there's a lot of single fathers now out there. I see that number growing more and more. I don't know why, but I see that number growing. Yeah. God gave us that extra mother instinct to be able to do certain things that I think, and not to offend, and just my personal opinion, there's things that men cannot do. Just like us, there's things that we cannot do that men can. We have to put that in our head. Even though we have equal rights,
we are different.
Too. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We're programmed different. If it's hard for a mom to be able to do certain things as a single mom, I am sure as a single father, it's as hard, even maybe sometimes harder. Because we were born with that mother, instinct, that motherly love.
That nurturing that so many of us just kind of,
a lot of men are just, I'm the father, I'm the provider, I'm not the nurturing. That's what mom does. So there's a lot, that we have been looking into. There's a lot of other things coming up. Pretty soon we will start working with, something to help the fathers out there. My phone number is available on the Facebook page, on the Instagram page. It's available. I always give it out in the little videos that I do, or on the post. Anybody that needs some kind of help, I do ask, that they can text me, because I do work I work 8 to 5, and I cannot be on the phone all the time. But if you text me, I will definitely, if I cannot help you, I will definitely send you to, or direct you somewhere, or get you the help that you need. We do work, and we do know other nonprofits or organizations that do some kind of work. So we can always try to guide you, bring that help to you. We do a lot of community work. That's what we do.
I already kind of had an idea that you were very heavily invested in the community. I just really had no idea to what degree, how long you had been doing it, how much is happening behind the scenes that nobody really, outside of obviously your circle and the people that are working with you, and maybe the people that are recipients of that help know. And I think that that's probably another reason why I was I kind of want to talk to her about that. And if I can in any way support that, I would like to, because you also gave me that vibe of I'm in it for the reasons that maybe not many get into this line of work. I kind of got that vibe of exactly that. I don't really want to be flaunting. I don't want it to look like I'm kind of receiving this, I'm better than them, or you know what I mean? And so I can see that now talking to you, that you were oh, but then you're also right. Because you are fortunate enough to keep growing, to keep meeting more needs, it's also a blessing to welcome that shift of, okay, let's put it out there, because now thankfully we have more means, or now we have more needs to meet. And I think that that's okay, right? I think that that's okay. I think it's a very difficult world to navigate, the life of an organization and of nonprofits, because you do have some people who are skeptical, and because there have been some people who give it a bad rep, right?
Yes.
Who just are in it for getting their egos stroke a little bit, and looking like they're the saviors, and taking some stuff that doesn't belong to them. So I understand that, but I definitely don't get that vibe from you. And I was telling my husband, I was I don't know much about exactly what her organization does, but I get the feeling that she's heavily invested, and not a lot of us know how or to what capacity. And it sucks that it's not out there more for people to learn about.
And I thank you, Julie. I thank you, because, this is, maybe if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have told you, no, Julie, I don't want this to be out there.
No me digas nada ni pongas mi nombre.
Because I'm telling you, and the reason that I don't give you names of the people that give us so much is because a lot of them are no, Vero. And I thank them every time I can. And when they give me the permission to do it on social media, I do it. I don't know if you remember Jose Gaona. He graduated I think a year after me and you from high school. He's one of my sponsors. It happened like with you. I knew of him in school. I had seen him say hi, whatever, but I had never really, actually met him until the Cubans came in. He called me. He's like, hey, what do you need? And then that started, a friendship between me and him that, has now involved, he owns his own pool. He does extreme pools. And he does all these pools for people. He does, commercial now. He's doing wonderful in business. He's growing. And he's one of my sponsors. He's one of the guys that I can call and say, hey, Jose, I have this call. This person needs this. And he'll be like, I voy o te lo mando or whatever. And these are people, that believe in us because we have been proving ourselves that it goes back to the community. It goes to where we're telling you it's going to go. Sometimes we help people that don't want to know. They don't want anybody to know that we're helping them, or they're going through some type of, that we all do. We all go through those little, man, I'm going through this little, bad
like the rough
part.
patches.
Yeah, like those rough, like I'm going through it. And, we did it 3 years ago. One of our little girls, her father passed away. Obviously, there was no life insurance, no nothing. And we went and we did, a little snack bar fundraiser. We had all these Mexican chucherías. We knew they were going to sell. And everything, everything was bought with our own money, with our volunteers. We all pitched in. We made a profit, and all of that was given to her. And sometimes we don't say these little things because we don't want people, they don't want to know. They don't want people to know what they're going through. And it's totally, we respect it. We did the same thing with one of our little girls too. Both parents got very sick. One had a stroke. The other one fell, needed knee surgery, and we did an enchilada sale. Everything that we made out of that was given to the family for whatever they might need, Julie. Either to pay a bill or to eat or to, whatever it is. It's given to them for that reason, for that purpose, just to try to make their lives a little bit easier, even if it's for 5 minutes. That's what we do. I don't do grants. I don't want to go into the grants because then they tell me who I have to target, and I don't want that.
Right.
Because sometimes it can be any of us. Todos pasamos una mala rachita sometimes. And it's okay if we need help. It's okay if we need that little push. We don't have to be, right hitting rock bottom to be able to get this kind of help. It shouldn't have to be that way,
Right.
But, we live in a place, in a country where it has to be that way. You have to hit rock bottom before we can even give you any help. And by that time,
sometimes you're even considered.
And sometimes that's bad.
Because it's not even guaranteed. Yeah.
Exactly. The depression, the anxiety that starts kicking in, especially us like moms. If you're a single mother, you're going through this rashita, you have these kids that you have to support, and nobody's giving you help because, you're not low income, but you're not high income.
Because
you're there.
You're $3 over.
Yeah. Because they're going by what by what you make, not by what you take home. And they're looking at all these things. And, so this is where we come in. We really don't ask a lot of questions. If you ever call me and tell me, hey, Vero, I know this family, I trust that and I'm not going to ask you questions. Okay, Julie.
Yeah.
Let me see what we can do, and we will do what we can. And that's what that's what we will provide, because I'm trusting that and sometimes we don't want you to know. Sometimes people don't want everybody to know what we're going through.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's okay. So if I start doing all this grant writing, because a lot of people tell me, Vero, you should go do the grant writing. And I'm like, no, because then I have to ask for an ID, and then I have to ask what, and then I have to ask where you work. And some people don't want to tell you that. They just need something, When I was in Haushen, Julie, I will never forget this. I was usually never alone. I had, all my volunteers with me most of the time. But this time I was alone. It was one of those days that El Paso was 100 degrees, and then it went to 50 degrees and it started pouring. This girl came into the center, and my office had glass, so I was able to see. And I got up and I said, can I help you? She was wearing a white t-shirt, no bra. She had really, really short hair, and she still had the either the one from the hospital or from the jail. I didn't know. I don't know. I saw it. I'm not ignorant. I saw it, but I
Yeah.
didn't ask. She tells me she's barefoot. She's walking, all she had was socks. And it was pouring. She was wet. And she tells me, I'm hungry. That's all she told me. I'm hungry. I said, okay, go ahead and have a seat. So I go and I get something right. And I tell the girls from the kitchen, can you prepare something for me? I have somebody out there. And I give her something and I ask her, what shoe size do you wear? What clothes do you wear? What size do you wear? And she tells me this, that. She didn't want to answer questions. She was just like very nice. I said, you know what? You're in the right place. I said, there's showers here. You can go take a shower. Once you're done eating, go take a shower. I'll bring you clothes. I'll bring you shoes. I'm like, so that you can, continue with whatever you were going to do. And she does the same, she goes in. She takes a shower. I tell the kitchen ladies, get me something to go that she can eat. We always had healthy snacks, granola bars, whatever. I said, get me a little baggie so that I can give it to her. She comes out of the shower. I give her a little bag, with things that she might need. Toothpaste, pad, tampon, whatever. Little things that she might need. Shampoo, conditioner, lotion, Tylenol, just in case. I gave her all these little things. And I gave her a couple of shirts, some Crocs. They were not Crocs, but they were kind of looking like Crocs. But I gave her things, that she
But
could
they would
take.
protect her feet.
Yeah. She wasn't barefoot, So I document that on the computer, right? Whatever. And the bigger people tell me, what was her name? How old was she? Where was she coming from? I don't know. I don't know where she was coming from. I don't know her age. It was a female. And that's all I needed to know. All I needed to know was that she was hungry. I don't need to know,
and she's
where she was coming
obviously
from.
and she's obviously going through something, because nobody just randomly walks in like that.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's why I think the work that you do is so needed, but it needs to be done by the right person who is in charge, and surround themselves with the right type of volunteers. Because it's very, very easy to tell, even though other people may be doing the same thing and they're meeting a need, which I always say, I don't care that the person is what they are, right? The person in charge. As long as the need is being met, I will always be grateful for that as a citizen of the city. And I'm glad that somebody stepped up to the plate, because they're doing it. You can't deny that. You have to give credit where credit is due. But you can also sort of tell who's in it wholeheartedly for just the pure desire of wanting to make someone's day, maybe not even their life, because sometimes you cannot fix somebody's whole life, right? But to make their day, that moment, better, or help them choose hope, even if it's one more day, versus somebody who's in it to gain even that self-righteousness type of feeling, right? Because some people are almost addicted to that feeling of like, look at me, look at how nice and kind I am, and look at how great I'm doing. And again, even if it is that type of person, but they're meeting needs, great.
Exactly.
Great, and I will support you. But it's always very nice to see when it's somebody who's in it for different reasons, who literally sees the human and meets that need because maybe perhaps has been in a situation where you hope somebody had been there for you. It's very different. And that is really mainly the reason why I felt it in my heart and I have it like vividly in my mind, a post that you shared. And there was nothing extra details about it. It was nothing but the symbol of your organization. It wasn't your, it was just that. It wasn't even a picture of you or anything. And I remember in that moment having this feeling of like, I feel like she's probably in this for very, very different reasons than most people are. And I need to speak with her. And for whatever reason, but look, and now you're telling me you probably would have turned me down.
I would have probably been like, hi, Julie, I'll take you out to lunch, but no.
And we have to trust that, because I would see another post maybe months down the line and be like, damn it, I haven't messaged her. I have to message her. And then that day, I literally was like, if I don't do it now, va a pasar otro pinche año y no le voy a mandar mensaje. So I just, because I think it was late too. And I was just like, oh, hey, I'm sorry. Or what? It was a very random like post that you did. And I was just like, I don't even know if you remember me. I don't even know if you know who I am.
No,
but
I remember.
I had to do it. But it was the right time. It was the right time because now you're ready for it. People that are working for you are open to it. And it was the right time.
You know, y como te digo, so now the webpage is going to go up. We are going to be posting pictures of what we do because we want everybody to know, you know, it is going to where it has to go. None of us are making a living out of this. It's just a wonderful feeling, Julie. It's like, I don't know. I tell my mom, it's so different, Mom, when you tell me Dios te bendiga, when just someone random from the street, you know, looking straight at you in the eyes, and sometimes they have tears in their eyes and they're like, Dios te bendiga. It's just so different, you know. Yes, I appreciate both. Yes, I appreciate my mom's blessing, but it's just a feeling that, I mean, I cannot explain it to you. It's just a feeling, you know, that you get. And even though people will talk negative, and even though people would say, this, and there she goes, and she wants her 5 minutes of fame, and people start talking because people will always talk no matter what you do.
There's always, that's always going to be.
Or you do bad or good or whatever, they're always going to talk because somebody has to focus on those little things that we don't do. And it's okay because, like I'm telling you, that feeling that we get, and it's wonderful. I have the wonderful group of people. Yo te puedo decir, those that in 2016 started with me at Haushen, that were just friends, random people that came up to me, are now part of my family because we've been doing this, you know. And there's times that we cannot help, Julie. There's times that we're like, okay, I'm sorry, like this is not what we cannot help you here. We cannot do this, or right now it's just a bad moment. But we still have a lot of the help that we can do, and we still have moments where something comes up y Diosito siempre nos finds a way. He always gives us here, you know. Even when we think that we can't help, hay una manera que algo pasa y sale, gracias a Dios. Como te digo, I cannot express to you so much how blessed I feel and how wonderful I feel with the group of people that I have. Y los nuevos que vienen llegando, you know, it's like they hear about me, or they see me, or they see somebody in the group, and they keep on, and we're just growing. And it's a good problem to have. It is, because I tell them, okay, we're going to need a bigger hall. And they're like, okay, Vero. And I'm like, yes, but this is a good problem. You know, this only means we're growing and we're giving to those kids. Kids with disabilities have a wonderful heart, and they will tell you how grateful they are, because ellos sí te hablan de corazón. It's wonderful. Filtro. We see them. Mm-hmm. We see them, y es algo que no tiene recompensa. You just see it, and it's wonderful, and it's what we do. Como te digo, we're trying to target, you know, all different types of everybody that needs any kind of help. We're trying to do a little bit of everything. Obviamente que pues a veces no se puede because we cannot do it all. Pero we're growing, you know, we're growing, and we're all doing a little bit of everything. Ahora con las abuelitas, como te digo, we're going to start crying pretty soon. Nos van a ver ahí llorando.
I know.
Because we see it, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, what they need. And even with the single fathers, like, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it's so weird that you're even saying this, because I've been, over the last couple of weeks, been having conversations with people who talk about the need for men to be supported for different reasons, right? Because and it always goes back to, like, because I get a lot of, like, resistance when I say things like that from other women.
Yep.
because they think that me saying that means, I've even been called a pick-me over the last few days, and I'm like, but I get resistance because I think that they equate me saying men need support with me thinking that I don't support women, or that I don't, you know, I'm like, I'm not for women to progress or whatever. But the thing is, like, I always talk about, like, we as women need and want, and so many women crave healthy men in their life. They want healthy relationships. They want present partners. They want present fathers, right? They want healthy dynamics between men and women. So it's like, this is good for us. Men being validated when there's a need, porque también si están de sangrones, pues no, ¿verdad? Pero when there's an actual need, and they need support, and they're trying their best to be better, to do better than maybe their own dads, their own grandfathers, uncles, then this is good for our daughters. This is good for the women coming up.
Yep.
We have to change the narrative. So I honestly think that that's a really wonderful thing to also focus on if you guys are able to, because it all goes back to just healthy dynamics.
Exactly.
For both men and women.
Yes. And, I don't know why. Como te digo, I don't know why the numbers for single fathers are growing, but they are. They are, for whatever reason.
I have a theory. I don't know because I don't have statistics and I don't know the reasons, but I have a theory that because men are trying to do better and be better, we're having more men who are interested in being better fathers and perhaps are probably stepping in when maybe the mom is not ready for such a responsibility, or, you know what I mean? Like they're just wanting to now have a voice in their children's lives. And that's probably why, because now you see more men trying, even if they get it wrong and even if they don't know what they're doing, but they're trying to step in and be there for their children.
Yes. So that's something that, it's still in the works. We are going to be working on that because we want to see how we can help them. We do have friends that are counselors. We do have friends that give, other kind of help. So luckily we know people that are willing to help. Even sometimes just giving them a break, sometimes just a breather makes a difference. It makes a difference for them.
Yeah, so, it makes for a happy parent. It makes for a peaceful parent. You were a single mom, so I'm sure there were moments when you could have needed a day to yourself, right? Yep. And know that your kids were safe, but still have that time for yourself. Now, my husband I was not a single mom, but I know what it's like to be with kids 24 hours a day because due to his career, he was gone, sometimes for a year and a half at a time.
Yep.
And so I'm home, and so I would have loved to have a safe person or a safe space where I could trust to leave my children so that I could calm down y que le bajara unas 10 rayitas because my stress level was through the roof,
Yep. And you see, and sometimes that's what happens. No.
Yeah.
We talk so much about so many things when it comes down to, cancer, this, that, things that kill us, obesity and things. And we leave out anxiety and we leave out depression, which are very bad. Yeah. Which trigger a lot of things in our lives.
A lot of diseases,
exactly. That, and anxiety is big right now, and sometimes like us, we would have never thought we were having an anxiety attack. Maybe we were, but we had no idea. Like, te calmas y te calmaste.
Ándale, and there was always an adult around you saying, ya, cálmate, contrólate.
Yeah.
And you're like, pues I guess I have no choice.
And people have it worse than you. You don't have it as bad as you think. And, yes, people have it worse than me. But at that moment, we feel that the world is coming down. And sometimes just it's going to be okay, or give him that little space. This is where, like I'm telling you, we're trying to do that with the fathers. I will go ahead and let you know more details once, it's set in stone and once we start with it. Most of the time, Julie, we start things, we don't know what we're doing. But
that's the best way to do it.
But we have hope. We have hope. We talk to people and they're like, no, you know what, a mí me gustaría esto. Well, that's doable. We're like, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Y como te digo, gracias a Dios, it comes into play. Gracias a Dios, He provides, He finds a way. And sometimes we're like, do we even know what we're doing? No. But okay, I'm going to be honest with you. This past homeless outreach, we were like, okay, guys, I don't know where we're going. I don't know what we're going to face. But, we have rules and regulations per se. We have teenagers that help us, young little girls. We don't approach, any big groups. As the ladies stay in the vehicles, the vehicles are always running just in case anything happens. We are aware that there's, that sometimes there's danger. We are aware. We are aware of what we're dealing with. But a veces, we just, it works out, como te digo, this time around, because of all these, new people coming into El Paso. We don't know exactly what we're facing sometimes, but, we take precautions. We try to take care of our people. The guys are the ones that approach. The guys are the ones that, kind of do all that work for us. And as the ladies stay in the vehicle, we don't take any jewelry with us. We don't show more than what we need to show. We stay very calm. Y como te digo, muchas de las veces, we always have had a good, agradecimiento, and they like it, and we are grateful to see, that we're providing at least one good meal. Whatever they do after, whatever they do before, whatever the reason there is for them being there, it doesn't matter.
That's
it doesn't
on them.
matter to us. Yes, we're just giving you a plate. We might not see you ever again. This might change your life, and it's good. But
Yeah.
we are aware. Sometimes, y como te digo, sometimes we do things like, oh, let's do this. And we're like, we don't even know how to even start. We're not educated.
Who had the great idea? Yeah, who had this idea? And now we don't know what to do with it.
And sometimes we're doing something and we're like, but here we go, sí, aviéntamelo. Como te digo, we're very grateful because our group is not perfect. We have our differences. There's times that we're arguing, and there's times that we're like no and see, and because we all think differently, because we all have a different, como dices tú, we're raised with a different experience. We experience different things, so all of us are like, no this, no that, but at the end we all have a good heart, and that's what makes this what it is now. I mean, our meetings sometimes are like we're not perfect. It's not it's not like those knives that you see on the TV. Yeah, this and this and this and that, and straight to the point. No, sometimes our meetings are 1 hour. Sometimes they're 2-3 hours because we cannot agree. We cannot make it. Pero como te digo, we've done this for a while. We've been together for a good amount of years, and we just continue to grow, and hopefully we will continue to grow. And the goal and the picture is really big. And hopefully we'll get there.
And I cannot thank you enough for being open to this. I'm glad that it happened when it happened. I would like for you to just maybe right now, and I'll be sure to list it. I always list like whatever project, organization, whatever details you're okay with me giving. I always link it when the episode is published. But maybe something that you would like our listeners to know, like, where can they find you, ways they can help, ways they can support the organization?
So I do have the page, the Facebook page, Corazones Unidos Coalition. Instagram right now, if you want to follow me on Instagram, go ahead and do so under Corazones. But that page will get removed, guys, because our guy that's doing our webpage is kind of, it's going to link everything together. The Facebook page will remain, but you can follow me, Veronica Román. That's the way you can follow me. You can find me. My phone number, you can list it, 915-271-2575. We really need volunteers, especially because we're growing. So anybody that has a little bit of free time, if you ever want to know, or if you ever want to be like Julie says, behind the scenes and see how we do, you're more than welcome, so that you can see a little bit of what we do, how we do it. But that's my phone number. You can text me. I will call you back. I will answer your message. It might not be immediately, but I will. I promise I will. 915-271-2575 is the number. Veronica Román, you can follow me like that on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Corazones Unidos Coalition, and you can go ahead and find, that way you can see a little bit of everything we do. And we're getting better and better at posting, because we didn't as much, but now we try to do it more often. And the webpage, as soon as it's up, I'll let you know. It's going to be worked on this year. It's something that we won't finish, we won't end the year without it. So hopefully there you can see, you'll be able to fill out a volunteer form if you want to volunteer. We don't ask for much. We just ask that, you go there, with a good heart.
With an open heart.
With an open heart, good heart. I cannot tell you what you're going to see. I cannot tell you, oh, this is going to go perfect. It will not go perfect. I cannot tell you. But, if you want to experience it, feel free to help us. That's one of the things that we need the most. We have our silent auction, which is every year. It's in April. Our fall festival is in October. Our posada is in November. And in between, we do little events here and there. When we go to the Special Olympics, that's in May. And we're going to, like I was telling you this coming year, Corazones Unidos is doing the whole works, hotel, everything. And hopefully, it's as successful as it's always been, where we pintamos sonrisas. That's all we look. That's all we look for. So if you're up for it, if you're up for a little bit of excitement, not perfection, if you're up for it, and just, you just want to see those little kids smile, or those little viejitas smile, or, you just want to make a difference for 5 minutes, feel free to call me, text me. I will get back to you. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
No, thank you for accepting. This was really nice. And I hope that it's not the last time that we communicate. Maybe we can collaborate in some capacity. So I hope that this isn't the last time and that we see each other in person soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I do thank you for gifting me your time, because I know you worked all day and you drove a long way. And
I was supposed to be off.
Technical issues. I know, she was supposed to be off, and they switched it up on her.
That's what happens, ni modo.
I know, and we're recording this very late. In case you guys listening don't know, this is a late recording. So she's tired. She's worked all day. So I'm very appreciative of the time that you gifted me.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, because you're opening another door for me, and I appreciate that. And I'm glad that it happened now. Como te digo, maybe 2 years ago, it would have been like, no, I'm sorry. But
check in with me 5 years.
I will send you the invitations to the events. I will let you know what we're doing. We have another homeless outreach that we're going to do pretty soon. And this time we're going to be targeting your area, Northeast area. That's the plan. But I will let you know. I will let you know on everything, how we're doing, where we're going. You can post my number anytime. If anybody reaches out to you, feel free to give them my number. Don't worry about it. Don't even ask me. If I don't have a way to help them, trust me, I will send them somewhere. I will get that help for them. If anybody of us cannot do it, I will send them somewhere.
Well, you guys heard it. Again, thank you so much. And I will be sure to post all of her social media information as of what it's running under today. And feel free to reach out to me with questions. I can know if you can't get a hold of her for some reason, or you don't know how to find her, and I will be sure to direct you to
Perfect.
her.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll see you later.